Kauffman Stadium and the like. And 23 of the 30 Major League ballparks were all built after 1990. And the field and the Green Monster Wall. And when we finish our tour way out in right field, we're going to finish in our nice little museum. And those pictures will be available for your review. You can talk to the folks at Fan Photo, but no obligation to do anything. And by the way, take as many photos as your own.
That you were going to beat me too, and then I really on Sunday was a jerk.
And I was looking at my rosters. I didn't do my typical, hey, you know.
Yeah. Son or something somewhere
when I get them, it's like your bedtime when I get it later.
There's certain places in the park, right?
26. I think Comerica had 420. Do they still have 420 up there? Yeah, we're either tied with Comerica or we have the deepest home run in all major leagues. Down the left field. Row 4, seats 1 and 2. I said, you got the ticket stub, go find the seat. It's still there after all these years. Welcome, folks, come on up. Well, more about that later, but a quick history of the Red Sox here in Boston before we arrived at Fenway Park. 1901, it all starts in the American League. We were one of the charter teams in the American League. We cleverly call ourselves the Boston Americans. We play our baseball about a mile over here, a nice little field called the Huntington Avenue Baseball Grounds. It is now right in the middle of the campus of Northeastern University here in Boston. And at the end of World Series play is the original pitcher's mound and home plate of the Huntington Avenue grounds, because in fact, in 1903, that was the site of the first World Series that were played in the Major Leagues. The Boston Americans challenged the Pittsburgh Nationals to a best 5 out of 9 game series. And how do you think that came up? Boston won, of course. Would I be mentioning it if we hadn't won? Best 5 out of 9 games of Boston Americans, the first World Series champions ever. The Americans were owned by the Taylor family. General Charles Taylor of the Civil War and his son John Taylor. They owned publishing empires, they owned real estate ventures, and they owned the Boston Red Sox, Boston Americans. Along the way, in 1908, they make a strategic marketing decision to change our name to the Boston Red Sox, because we started wearing red stockings in 1908. And they began the search for a permanent site here. 1911, they arrived in the Fenway. They began construction October of 1911. 6 months later, in April of 1912, at a cost of $650,000, Fenway Park is ready to open. Now, the original ballpark came up to right where that blue railing is above the red field box seats there. Okay, held about 20,000 fans, give or take. By the way, 6 months, $650,000, that's a record. Last time anything's ever been on time in our budget construction in the city of Boston. We're ready to go in April 1912, but we were rained out a couple of days after April 15th. And also we waited because on April 15th, a very tragic event happened on the high seas. Yes, the Titanic sank, exactly, yeah. A lot of folks on that boat had family in Boston, and so the Red Sox waited until April 20th, and on that day, I'm happy to report that we were victorious in our first game here at Fenway Park, and we beat a team from New York. Can I get an amen for that, huh? All right. Now, it wasn't the Yankees, technically. It was a team called the New York Islanders. Okay? Now, the Islanders had a dismal 1912 season. They lost over 100 games. And they went back in the offseason to refigure their things. And they said, let's change our name to the Yankees and change our uniforms to pinstripes. So from 1913 on, they had the Yankees. But technically, we've been beating the Yankees here since day one. I would have to argue with that, right? Okay, tremendous 1912 season for the Boston Red Sox in their brand new ballpark. We go to our second World Series. We win our second World Series. 1914, it gets even better. George Herman Ruth comes here as a 19-year-old rookie, a high-throwing pitcher from Baltimore, Maryland. And folks, you're looking at the only pitchers on left in the major leagues that can make the claim that Babe Ruth pitched off that very mound. High-throwing left-handed hitter, and then given the onset of World War I, a shortage of players, many players are drafted into military service. They asked some of the exempt players if they could play positions in the field. Babe Ruth raised his hand and said, yeah, I think I can. I think I can hit every day. And it was then discovered he's the best hitter in baseball as well. And we go to the World Series, get this. We go to the World Series and we are victorious. Let's count them off here. 1915, 1916, 1918, 2004. What the heck happened? Up to 86 years without a World Series championship here in Boston. If you ask any Bostonian what the number 86 means, they'll immediately tell you it's the curse of the Bambino. The curse of Babe Ruth, because when he left here after the 1919 season, he walked out the door and said, Boston will never win another World Championship without me. Now, Babe didn't have much say in the matter. He was sold to the New York Yankees for $125,000 by owner Harry Frazee. Now, give you a little intel on Harry Frazee, interesting guy, Broadway producer. That was his main business line. He owned the Boston Red Sox as a side business. Wasn't a big fan of Bambino along the way either. And Babe Ruth asked for a raise on December 26, 1919. Harry Frazee saw an opportunity to raise some money to produce the next big Broadway musical. So that's why he decided to sell Babe Ruth for $125. But in the next season, he sold 9 of our best players, raising more cash. Sold to the Cardinals and the Yankees, okay? Since 1920, folks, you know which franchises have won the most World Series? The Cardinals and the Yankees, exactly. They all had their start here with that 1918 World Series championship team. So I call this period the curse of Harry Frazee, because he's the one who decimated that World Series championship team. We are in for some sorry decades here at Fenway Park, folks. 1920s, we had clearly the worst team in the American League year after year after year. Fans started coming to the ballpark. Why would you come to see a last place team? We had some strange things happen too. In 1926, a fire started in the stands below the Cubs sign out there in left field. Somebody left a scar under the stands. The entire section burned to the ground. We have a new owner on the scene. His name is Mr. Bob Quinn. Mr. Quinn looks at that and says, you know what? I always come to see this lousy ball club anyway. Why should I even fix those things? So for 7 years, we put a rope over there. We called that extended foul territory, left field. But we're safe in 1933. Fenway Park is safe for the first time. On the scene comes a new owner, Thomas Austin Yockey. And Tom Yockey and his wife Jane would own the team for the next 60 years. Tom Yockey saved Fenway Park. He was a millionaire. He invested $1.2 million in the team and the ballpark, but he invested $1.6 million to fix the place up. Made 4 major changes that year, all of which you hear today. Okay, first up, 12,000 of these oaken iron seats, 1934. The roof over your heads, 1934. The bleachers extended all the way to 379 block, 1934. And then finally, the fourth and the most iconic change listed out the unit in 1934, construction of that beautiful 37-foot 2-inch wall out there in left field. And 2 seasons later, we put a 23-foot screen on top of the 37-foot wall. Well, why such a need for such a fortification here? We're coming into the live ball era of baseball in the 1930s. Baseballs are now constructed differently. They're starting to fly out across that 15-foot fence that was in left field on a regular basis. That's good. Everybody likes home runs. Thomas Austin Yockey did not like home runs because right across the street in 1934, opened up in the first time. That street was also called General Motors Way. A number of new car dealerships were setting up shop on the street. So, who's responsible for all that damage? Cracked windshields, broken tinted hoods? Thomas Austin Yonke, you bet. So he said, I'll fix that 37-foot wall, 23-foot screen. It also prevented people from standing on the buildings across the street and watching the game for free. So there's our wall there. Okay, now, fast forward. The screen stayed up there until 2002, believe it or not. And then in 2003, he had a great wisdom to kind of put seats on top of that wall. And I'd like to ask you all, invite you all, if you'd like to meet the most comfortable seats in Major League Baseball, and go check out those seats. But those seats have a name, that wall has a name, so I want to check with you all first. Are you a proper Bostonian? Okay? First up, what's the name of that wall? Green Monster, I'm hearing that. Oh, very close. Okay. If you go down to the seaport, and you get one of those red things with claws, okay, what would you call that?
A lobster.
Lobster, okay. And, or a lobster. L-O-B-S-T-A-H. Okay, so that, my friends, is spelled M-O-N-S-T-A-H. Green Monster, okay? So is everybody ready? On the count of three, when I say green, you say monster. 1, 2, 3, green. Monster! Thank you, ask your test. I'll be right this way. Trying to film as best we can. A lot of empty seats in the second and first row over there. We can jump down and fill in the seats. And here we are. Welcome to the Green Monster, folks. Right this way. Go grab a silver seat down there. Check out the view of the Green Monster. Best view in Major League Baseball. There you go. All right. The only bidders, they were committed to staying here, and they paid $650 million for the ballpark and the Boston Red Sox. They knew they had to do some things to bring Fenway Park into the 21st century. One of the first phone calls they made was to the most gifted architect in all of baseball. Her name is Janet Marie Smith. She had worked before there with one of our owners, Larry Lucchino. When he was in Baltimore, they worked on Camden Yards. When he was in San Diego, she helped design Petco Park, two beautiful in-city ballparks. And they said, called her here and said, what can we do? She said, why is there a net on top of the Green Monster wall? Why don't you put seats up there? So for the 2003 season, we put 269 seats, 100 standing room only stations in the back of you here. And they've been the most popular seats here ever since. Now, in that first season though, the Red Sox weren't sure anybody wanted to sit out here. Can you believe that? You're hanging outside Fenway Park. You're actually over Lansdowne Street right now. They said, let's see how it goes. They priced every seat up here at $50 for the 2003 season, and they put the entire 81 game home schedule on sale in February 2003 during the snowstorm. It took 72 minutes to sell out all 81 home games. Gone. $50 a ticket. So since that day, we've had what we call dynamic pricing up here. What does that mean? Dynamic means it changes every day based on how well the Red Sox are doing, what the weather is, who our opponent is, etc. So I'll give you a couple of quick examples. Not going to pick on any teams, but in April, the Chicago White Sox were here on a Wednesday afternoon, and you could probably get up here about $150 or something like that. 2 weekends ago, the LA Dodgers were in town. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night games, $600, $700, $800. That's what we mean by dynamic pricing. So I'd like to introduce you to our foul poles. As I mentioned, 302 feet down the line there in right field. That is forever known as the Pesky pole. Johnny Pesky was a great outfielder in the 1940s and 50s for the Red Sox. 305 lifetime hitter, but he only hit 17 home runs in his whole career. and 6 of those home runs just barely made it around that foul pole. His teammates kidded him at the time and said, John, you know what? Those aren't real home runs. We're going to call them pesky home runs. And he hated it at the time, but after 60 years of service with the Boston Red Sox in many capacities, as a broadcaster, a bench coach, a hitting instructor, we brought Johnny Pesky back here at the age of 87, named that Pesky pole in his honor. And of course, to my immediate right here, forever known as the Fisk pole, number 27 on our retired numbers wall, the great Carlton Fisk. We have to go all the way back to the 1975 World Series. We are losing in the series 3-2 to the great Cincinnati Reds, the Big Red Machine. 5 future Hall of Famers on that team. 3 future Hall of Famers on that Red Sox team too, by the way. One of the greatest World Series ever played. It's game 6. The game is tied in the 12th inning. Carlton Fisk comes to the plate, hits a ball into the October sky, and it's spinning and spinning. Looks like it's going foul, but does anyone like me, are you old enough to remember what Carlton Fisk did that night? Yes! He waves it fair. He runs up the first baseline, willing the ball to stay fair. It hits this foul pole right here. Walk-off home run, Boston Red Sox in Game 6 of the 1975 World Series. My goodness, what a night of celebration it was here in Boston. Wow, we really thought we had broken the curse of the Bambino that night. And then 2004, the blue seats below us, those were the corporate suites. Then 07, 08 time frame, we went up one more level there, the pavilion level here at Fenway Park. And these really have some of the best seats in the ballpark. You can see the whole ball field below you. Your foul balls travel at about 30 miles an hour. You can put your hand out and safely catch them. These are really, and they're a lot less expensive than the Boston seats on average too. From here you can see a number of things. I wanted to point out a couple of highlights of the ballpark. You begin to see that those crazy dimensions I talked about before. You can kind of see almost the outline of the 5 city streets there, all the way up to the 420 market there in center field. From here, I wanted to point something out to you and give you a bit of a eye test too as well. Okay? In the bleachers, amongst all those green seats in the bleachers out there, in right center field, okay, about 3/4 of the way up. Does anyone see a seat that's not green? The red seat, okay. My friends, that is the landing site of the longest home run ever hit here at Fenway Park. It goes back to June 9th of 1946, and it was hit by number 9 on our retired numbers wall, the great Ted Williams. But just for now, visualize. Look where the home plate is. Look where that red seat is there. Batting practice, and then any players that have never been here before, they often walk across left field and they'll walk inside the green monster wall there, inside the scoreboard, open that little green door, and they sign their autograph on the cement wall back there. So there's tens of thousands of autographs. Think about some of the greatest players ever played the game, and their autograph is all on the cement back there now. So that gets me to the scoreboard. Does everybody see the scoreboard at the base of the wall? Also goes back to 1934. The only scoreboard left in the major leagues that's fully manually operated. Okay? No automation out there whatsoever. It requires 3 people to go inside that wall tonight to keep score. They go in that little green door right to the the left of W.B. Mason up there. You might see the little green door. And tonight you'll see 3 people go in there. They have 3 separate and distinct tasks. First game, in-game score, Kansas City versus Boston as the game progresses. They slide tiles. They're 20 by 24 inch tin tiles. They weigh about 2.5 pounds. They slide them up in the slot, any by any. You just reach back in the wrap, grab the number, slide it up there. Life is good. In the middle, we're going to track all American League games that are in progress. So tonight, you got the White Sox playing the Angels. If there's enough in that score, same thing. That scorekeeper's going to go behind the wall, tell you what inning it is, who's pitching, what the score is. Okay. To the far right, everybody see the National League scoreboard? Okay. Our National League scorekeeper, not so lucky. Okay, because when we built the Green Monster seats in 2003, there's a large concrete and steel post that comes down the middle of that wall, separating him from the back of the wall. Can no longer get out of the back. So if you come to the game anytime in the next few nights, stay in your seat between innings, and you'll see National League scorekeeper come running out that little green door with a bunch of numbers and a step ladder. One more thing here. The iconic Citgo sign out there. Those of you here for the first time may have thought that was kind of inside the ballpark. It's not. It's over across Kenmore Square, towards the top of a building owned by Boston University. A great story about the Citgo sign, though, goes back to the 1990s and the early part of this century. Joe Carter, power-hitting right-handed outfielder for the Cleveland Guardians and Toronto Blue Jays, okay, helped them win a World Series. Joe Carter mashed the ball when he came here at Fenway Park. He hit more home runs at Fenway Park during his career than any other visiting ballpark. One Sunday after a series in which Carter went something like 8 for 14 with 4 home runs, a reporter asked him, "Joe, what do you attribute your success here at Fenway Park?" And Joe said, "It's easy, let me explain. I get up to the home plate, I look out there in left field, and I see that sign above the Green Monster." And the reporter said, "The sign? What sign?" He said, "You know, the See It Go sign." True story, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Have a good look at the red seat over the railing here. The most iconic seat in the ballpark. Right up there with Plymouth Rock. Here at Fenway Park, folks. August back June 9, 1946. We're playing a doubleheader that day against the Detroit Tigers. Oh, where are my Detroit fans? Yeah, righty, all right. Because we didn't have lights here until 1947, so prior to that, we had a lot of doubleheaders here at Fenway Park. On that day, sitting in row 37 of section 42 below us was a gentleman named Joseph Belcher, a traveling businessman from Albany, New York. Anybody from Albany? Anybody ever hear of Albany, New York? Yeah, you have. Good, good. Just checking. Joe took him down to Boston, and whenever he had time, he'd skip out of work and catch a game here. That day, he bought a ticket to the bleachers. He's seated out there in his beautiful summer seersucker suit, bow tie, and wearing a big brimmed star hat because it's a very sunny day here. And you can see the way the sun beats down on the bleachers. Well, here's where the story gets interesting. The first game of that doubleheader is coming to a close, and so are the eyes of Mr. Belcher. He's starting to nod off in the summer sun. By the time game 2 begins, the hat's over his eyes. He's sound asleep. He does not see in the bottom of the first inning of that game the great Ted Williams come to the plate. Ted Williams got a hold of a changeup thrown by Fred Worthington of the Tigers. Sends it all the way out here into row 37 directly on the head of Mr. Belcher. Knocked him unconscious. Put a baseball-sized hole in his big straw hat as well. But the story has a happy ending. Mr. Belcher's going to be fine. They took him downstairs. They administered to him whatever they did in 1946 for concussion protocol. We're not quite sure, but anyway. He comes back to a seat a couple innings later, but by now a big crowd is gathered around in row 37 here. No one's ever seen a baseball hit this far at Fenway Park before. A reporter from the Boston Globe comes running up the stairs to interview Mr. Belcher. He gets some background detail. Joe Belcher from Albany, New York. He said, "Mr. Belcher, do you have the baseball? Did you see the baseball?" He politely answered, "No, sir. I lost all interest in it once it hit me in the head." So that concludes the outdoor tour portion of our tour, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to do a couple things here. We're going to go down 4 flights of stairs right there. We wind up in the Royal Rooters Club, which is our season ticket holders pregame experience, and there's also wonderful baseball memorabilia there. We're doing just fine without you.